What if we can't resolve this current crisis that we are in? And where's the first domino to fall? These are the two questions that we will be looking at today. I'm going to break down some details, beginning with what the Federal Reserve had to say. We'll talk about the energy crisis and so much more. Let's begin. Fed Williams pushes back on market expectations of a rate cut next year. I think it's important to watch what the Federal Reserve says, not just the FOMC statements, but each and all of the details. I cover them all. And this is one of them. New York Fed President John Williams said he expects interest rates to continue higher and to remain at those levels until inflation is subdued. This is just mirroring what they've all been saying. Williams didn't specifically say where he'd like to see rates go, but he did note that he believes reducing inflation will require real interest rates to be positive. I think that's really key, okay? Because when you look at what they've said recently, they have all been saying the exact same thing, okay? And that's important because there's no real deviation from that. Okay, then we have this quote, "We are going to need to have restrictive policy for some time." This is basically what Jerome Powell had said, almost word for word, at the recent Jackson Hole convention. He said in a live interview, "This is not something that we are going to do for a very short period and then change course. I do think with demand far exceeding supply, we do need to get real interest rates above zero. We need to have somewhat restrictive policy to slow down demand, and we're not there yet." He's saying, look at the stock market and then look at the jobs market. And I'm going to show you something momentarily that I think is important. People should look closely at what's happening with the jobs market because it gives them an indication of what's happening. The Federal Reserve is paying attention to it. And of course, it's looking fantastic to some degree. Well, there's some anomalies. I'll show you those. By the way, this little, the way that I'm showing the article right now is something that I'm going to be changing. I'm not going to show you the articles that's got the little banners and the pop-ups on all these pages. I'm going to be reformatting them all. Something like this. I'll figure it out. I'm getting all the technology set up right now. Bear with me. Fed gets new path to go big as job openings and confidence surprise. Two indicators, top forecast pointing to strength in demand. This is going on. It's been a while now where there's so many job openings. Companies don't know what to do. Okay, they cannot get people in the door. People don't want to make the wage. They don't want to make the salary, whatever it happens to be. And they're basically either staying out of the workforce, maybe they're working two jobs in some cases. There's a lot of people that are unemployed. There's a lot of people that are sitting on assets that have basically, really appreciated from 2020. And they're basically saying, I don't need any bit of this. And there's more to go on that, of course. But I think it's important to watch what the Fed does because they take this as a sign of strength. Sure, we can deal with a few more people being unemployed if this is the kind of thing we are going to see. Now, I want to show you what's happening in China. Pay close attention. Chinese copper giant, I can't pronounce that, Maeki, seeks help with liquidity issues, firm in difficulties because of the flare-ups that have been happening and so on, because of lockdowns and shutdowns, payment delays affecting imports, but impact limited. Do I need to suggest to anybody that's been watching this channel for a while that what happened with Evergrande was not the only factor? Evergrande was just one piece of the puzzle, and yet so many people say, oh, boo-hoo, Evergrande didn't collapse. If you follow along with what's happened with Evergrande, it's just been nothing but bad news the entire time. But you don't hear too much about it. Why? Because Evergrande stock was halted a while ago. It would have collapsed. The stock would have collapsed to zero. It was collapsing, and they just basically said, we've had enough of that. And the government came in, and they started to take those measures. But it's collapsed. That's just the way it is, okay? Call it what you want. That's what we're dealing with now. And now this has started to affect not just other people, other companies in the property sector. We're going deeper. This is the, one of China's most influential commodities traders seeking government aid to shore up its finances. This is just giving us an indication that it's not one factor. And as I show in the thumbnail image, the $62 trillion problem, that's Chinese real estate. That's how big it is. Okay, so we know that it is fundamental to the strength of China. And also, if you have a country or a company that's a commodities exporter, I assure you, China wants some of that. And if they're not going to be buying so much anymore, it's going to take a toll on the economies around the world. Okay. So the chairman and founder asked the government and financial institutions for help after liquidity issues forced his company to delay some payments for imported copper. The world's biggest miner is among suppliers that are diverting shipments away for now. I want to know what's going to happen with this. I'm going to give you all the details as it comes out, but just understand that this is one after another after another. Cash crunch sounds a lot like what was happening with Evergrande and all the rest. So what was the deal here? Let's talk. And so what's happening in China right now? I think it's important to address it. If you see what happened up until 2020, things went swimmingly. You had new investors continuously coming in, buying up all these homes that were nowhere near built. And we're talking about development after development, not just one building. This is a massive situation they had going on. And as long as you had those new people coming in, you could pay those others. However, in 2020, there was lockdowns, there were shutdowns, there was businesses going over here. The people weren't going out. They weren't allowed to leave their homes. And so suddenly you didn't have those new investors coming in. And that posed a huge problem, right? Well, this is starting to take its toll, not just on the property sector, but now we are getting it on the periphery. It's very important. So when I always talk about what's happening with the commodities, you've got to understand this. China, that's just one country over there. I don't need to worry about it. I don't invest in China. But if your country is exporting to China, maybe you're the United States and you're exporting mass quantities of soybeans. Well, then, if you've got an issue in your country and suddenly you don't need so many soybeans, well, then your farmers are going to hurt. You look at Chile, they're exporting copper. Well, then, if China's not buying your copper, what are you going to do? The same situation in Australia. If they're not exporting as much to China, they're going to feel it, and so on and so forth. I found this very interesting. China throws Europe an energy lifeline with LNG resales. Wait, hold on. Resales? What are we talking about here? Surplus gas eases Russia's stranglehold but gives Beijing outsized influence. What's going on here? China is saving the day? Are they getting the gas from Russia and then reselling it to Europe? What in the world? China snaps up over $2 billion of Russian LNG as energy trade bucks economic downturn. Could that be the case? Well, look, except for Russia, all the other major LNG suppliers to China have seen a drop in their trade volumes this year. It's so wild what's happening right now, and I just wanted to show this to you to give you a little bit of insight as to what's happening. Who are the winners from all of this? It looks like to me we are seeing China winning, we are looking at Russia winning, and Europe is definitely losing out. They're losing big time. In fact, in the UK, apparently inflation could top 22% as energy prices soar, this is according to Goldman Sachs. 22% on the official inflation rate, that to me is quite shocking, okay? Because largely in part because of energy prices and food prices and all these things that are going up like crazy. But ultimately, it's not as if, oh yeah, it's just those energy prices or it's just those food prices. These are the things that we need. We need to have energy, we need food, we need shelter. And if all of those are going berserk, we're in big trouble, okay? If, just for example, the latest iPhone price doubled, you could just say, you know what, I'm not going to have that new iPhone. I could wait. And so that's one thing. But for food, you can't exactly wait too long. Consumers shifting back to used vehicles as inventory shortages continue. So actually the price, if you look at the Manheim index, which is basically showing us the wholesale car index, that has come down, okay, from the peak. But I'm concerned about the consumers, okay, and what they're doing, their actions. And you can see they're going back to used cars. What does that mean? They cannot afford it because gas is high, because prices are high, insurance is high, and so on. So this just gives us a little bit of insight into the consumer sentiment. And what is the government planning on doing? This is, in fact, the case. This is just one example. The governor is pushing for $2,000 in direct payments to Pennsylvanians. So they want to give the universal basic income out there in one way, shape, or form. I have said this before, but I do believe that this is probably the policy in which will be pretty much everywhere. Okay, they're going to give cash directly to people. I think there's going to be a little bit of a, how can I say, a little bit of a catch on that, but we'll see what happens. Quick notes here about energy. Norway sees long-term gas demand from Europe. So now, because of what's been happening with Russia, Russia has become kind of, in the background, and, because with everything going on, I think it's obvious. But with all of that happening, you have Norway stepping in. So Norway could potentially benefit by this, and they are pushing out a lot of gas and say they can do so until 2030. And the heat, I just wanted to give you an idea of what's happening right here, just showing us that there is this still with the extreme weather conditions right now. Heat expected in the Northwest. I've also seen California just being scorched right now. And then along with that, potentially connected, maybe not. I mean, I really don't know what's happening here, but yet another food processing facility has been burnt up. I mean, what's happened? There's just an extreme amount. Okay, I looked at the history behind this, and this is just showing us how many stories have been written about food plant fire. That's only one way to look at it, but I've just noticed this because there was a big list that I've shown in previous videos, and it is just crazy. In my opinion, just crazy how many that there have been. What do you think about it? Is it suspicious to you? Let me know. And so with all that being said, I think we should look at what we have fundamentally in the country that you live in. What is your current status? What's happening right now? Is it in drought? Is there floods? Is there anything with the food supply that is of concern? Do you have your own situation in order? What about your food? Is it coming all from the grocery store? We always have heard this, grocery stores will have their shelves completely bare in a matter of a couple of days. Okay, so always be one step ahead. As long as you're one step ahead, at least one step ahead of the general public, you're going to be better off. So just do that. Take those actions today, and I do think you will be, able to basically weather the storm much better, anyway, than many other people. Some have said, this is going to go beyond the recession. Others say a mild recession. I don't know. But why not plan for the worst and hope for the best? Okay. If you appreciate this and you found it valuable, subscribe to the channel. I'll bring you details every single day.